Imagine being on the phone with your son for 47 minutes as he walks through the dark, trying to find his way home. You can hear his breath, his footsteps, and then a sudden bone-chilling scream. Oh, damn. The line goes silent forever. Brandon Swanson didn't just go missing. He vanished while his parents were listening.
On May 14, 2008, a 19-year-old made a desperate phone call to his parents for help. Those were the last words Brandon Swanson ever said. And then the line just went dead. This is the story of one of the most unsettling, unsolved cases in modern history. He was celebrating the end of his first year studying wind turbine technology. A totally normal night. For 47 agonizing minutes, he stayed on the phone with his parents, trying to guide them. Brandon was so sure he was near Lind, but his cell phone records, they told a different story. He was actually 25 miles away from where he thought he was. A critical, terrible mistake. The car wasn't seriously damaged. Its wheels just couldn't get traction. But Brandon was gone. With his car found, a massive search was launched to find the missing teenager. They brought in everybody. Police, dogs, planes, and hundreds of incredible volunteers. An all-out effort. Search dogs did pick up a scent trail, but where it led? Well, it only deepened the mystery. The scent trail just stopped cold. Not a single other piece of evidence has ever been found. With nothing to go on, investigators and his family were just left with theories. And here's the thing, every plausible theory is just shot down by a complete lack of evidence. Adding to the family's pain was the initial response from law enforcement, which was slow. Incredibly, an officer actually told his mom it was Brandon's right to be missing. Unbelievable. So his family fought, and that fight led to a crucial change in Minnesota law. Brandon's law has saved lives by forcing police to act fast in those first critical hours. But the law couldn't find him. To this day, nothing belonging to Brandon has ever turned up. For over 17 years, his family has kept his story alive, hoping the truth will come out. The silence that followed his last words on that phone call continues to this very day.
Here is the impossible part. Brandon told his father he was near the town of Lind, but after a massive search, his car was found 25 miles away in a completely different direction. If Brandon didn't know where he was, then who or what was he actually running from in those final seconds? The answers lie in a landscape that shouldn't exist.
Today, we're going to break down one of the most puzzling disappearances in recent American history, the case of Brandon Swanson. Now, this isn't just about retelling a tragic story. We're going to dive deep to really analyze the hard facts, the strange inconsistencies, and the big questions that have hung over this case for well over a decade.
Oh shit. Can you imagine? Those are the very last words anyone ever heard from 19-year-old Brandon Swanson. He said them to his own father, right in the middle of a 47-minute phone call. And then, just nothing. The line went dead. And just like that, Brandon was gone.
So let's set the scene. It's May 14th, 2008. A young guy, just 19 years old, is lost on some dark country road. But here's the thing, he's not totally alone. He's on the phone with his parents, who are literally out there looking for him. So, the biggest question, the one that kicks off this whole investigation is how? How does a person just vanish while they're on the phone talking to someone who's trying to save them?
Okay, so here's how we're gonna break this down. We'll start with what we know for sure. Then we'll look at that crucial phone call. After that, we'll dig into this massive 25-mile mistake that threw everyone off. We'll cover the search, the big unanswered questions, and, believe it or not, a surprising legacy that came out of all this. All right, first things first, let's get grounded in the facts. This is the stuff we know for sure, the undisputed foundation of the entire case. So, who was Brandon Swanson? He was a 19-year-old kid, a student in a wind turbine program. On the night of May 13th, 2008, he was doing what a lot of college kids do, celebrating the end of the semester with some friends. He was heading home, a drive that should have taken him, maybe 30 minutes. But for some reason, he took some back roads, and that's when things went wrong. He ended up driving his car straight into a ditch. And that moment, with his car stuck in a ditch, is what kicks off the single most important piece of evidence we have in this whole case, that 47-minute phone call he made to his parents. It's pretty much the only official timeline we have of his final moments. Okay, so the call starts at 12:30 in the morning. Brandon calls his folks and says, "Hey, I crashed, my car's stuck, but I'm okay."
For the next 40 minutes or so, his parents are driving around, flashing their lights, trying to find him, but they just can't connect. It's totally dark out there. Then, around 1:15 a.m., Brandon decides he's not going to wait anymore. He gets out of the car and starts walking towards some lights he sees in the distance. And he stays on the phone with his dad the whole time, right up until 1:54 a.m. That's when he says, "Oh shit," and the call just cuts out.
All right, this is where the case takes a really sharp, confusing turn. We're about to hit the one thing that has stumped investigators from the very beginning. It's a huge, and I mean huge, error in location.
See, the whole time he was on that call, Brandon was absolutely certain where he was. He kept telling his parents, I'm near Lynn, Minnesota. So naturally, that's where they went. That's where they were searching. He was walking towards lights he thought were in Lynn. But here's the twist. When the police finally get his cell phone records, the data tells a totally different story. The cell tower his phone was pinging, it was nowhere near Lynn. This was the first piece of concrete evidence that showed everyone, Brandon, his parents, the early searchers, they were all operating on completely wrong information. And we're not talking about a small mistake here. The real location, based on his phone, was a full 25 miles away from where he thought he was.
So let's just nail this down, because it's everything. Brandon was convinced he was near a town called Lynn, but his car was actually found 25 miles from there, near a different town called Taunton. So whatever lights he was walking towards, they weren't the lights of Lynn. And this one critical mistake sent his parents and all the initial search efforts on a wild goose chase in the totally wrong direction.
So once the police figured out this 25-mile problem, they launched a massive search in the correct area. But here's the frustrating part. Even with all their resources, the trail went cold almost instantly. So why was that? And when I say massive, I mean it. You had local police, county sheriffs, state patrol, everybody was involved. Hundreds of volunteers came out to help. They had planes in the air, ATVs on the ground, search boats in the river. They even brought in the best of the best, highly trained bloodhounds to sweep the area around his car. And the dogs, they actually found something. This was the biggest lead they had. The bloodhounds picked up Brandon's scent right at his car and tracked it for 3 miles. It wasn't a straight line either. It wound through fields, followed gravel roads, basically confirming the path Brandon took after he got out and started walking. But then, after 3 miles, the trail just stopped, right at the bank of the Yellow Medicine River. It was a complete dead end. Some reports say one dog stopped right at the water, another might have crossed and lost the scent on the other side. But either way, that spot, that's the last known physical trace of Brandon Swanson on this earth. After that, nothing. The trail vanishes into thin air.
So with the physical trail gone cold, all that's left are theories. We're going to look at the main ones here, but we're going to be really strict about it, looking only at the evidence we have, and more importantly, the evidence we don't have.
Okay, theory number 1 is accidental drowning. It makes sense, right? The scent trail leads right to the river. The problem? They searched that river over and over again for years and found absolutely nothing. Not a body, not a piece of clothing. So what about foul play? I mean, the call did end very suddenly. But again, there is zero evidence of a struggle. No signs of another person, nothing. And the last idea, maybe an accident, like a fall or even running into an animal. That could explain the oh shit. But once again, searchers scoured that area and found no physical evidence. No blood, no scuff marks, nothing at all. And that right there is the core mystery. They searched 122 square miles. And in all that space, they didn't find a single thing. Not his phone, not his wallet, not his keys. It's like he and everything he had on him just ceased to exist. You know, it's just a tragic, frustrating story. But out of all that pain, something surprisingly positive actually came about. The experience his parents went through led directly to a change in the law. It's called Brandon's Law, and it was passed in Minnesota back in 2009. See, when Brandon's parents first called the police, they were basically told, well, he's an adult, he has the right to be missing. Can you imagine hearing that? This law was designed to make sure no other family ever had to. So what does it do? Simple. It gets rid of those old waiting periods. If an adult is reported missing, police have to start an investigation right away. They have to figure out if the person is in danger, and it clears up any confusion about which police department is in charge. It's a really powerful legacy, and it's already helped save people's lives. So we're left right back where we started. A 47-minute phone call, a 25-mile discrepancy, zero physical clues, a young man on the phone with his dad on a dark Minnesota road who just disappears. What really happened out there? The
The silence that fell after he said those last two words, well, it's a silence that we're all still listening to, hoping for an answer.
Did Brandon fall into a river, or did he stumble into something much more sinister? His body has never been found, leaving only that final scream to echo through time. Stay tuned, because case number 3 takes us to a snowy mountain pass, where a young woman crashed her car and walked into a void. This is Terminal Trace.